On September 10, 2025, America was shaken. What was supposed to be an ordinary afternoon of spirited debate at Utah Valley University turned into a national tragedy. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk collapsed during his event, struck during what authorities now confirm was a deliberate attack. Charlie Kirk, 31, was on campus for the kickoff of his American Comeback Tour. The format was simple: open questions, open debate, prove me wrong style. Hundreds of students filled the outdoor courtyard to engage. Then, just after noon, the unthinkable happened. A sharp sound cracked through the air. In an instant, Kirk staggered, clutching his neck, and collapsed. Panic swept the audience. Students screamed, dove for cover, and rushed away from the stage. Witnesses describe it as chaos, a moment that felt surreal, like time had stopped. Within minutes, Kirk's security team and first responders were rushing him out of the courtyard. He was transported to a local hospital, but despite urgent care, his life could not be saved. By early afternoon, the story was breaking across every major network. CNN cut into programming at 2:50 p.m. Eastern. Anchors Jake Tapper and Breonna Keeler led with somber voices. "This dark era of political violence just got darker," Tapper remarked. Keeler added simply, "It's horrifying." CNN was not alone. MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, and CBS all broke in with special reports. For once, the tone across the spectrum was unified: shock, sadness, and condemnation. But facts were scarce. Officials initially said a person of interest was in custody. Some outlets reported the suspect had been caught. By evening, that detail had changed. No shooter was in custody, and the attacker was still at large. CNN updated its coverage quickly, but the back and forth created confusion and frustration among viewers. The media struggle. Here's where CNN's coverage drew both praise and criticism. On one hand, their anchors were measured, careful not to speculate. They refused to air the most graphic footage circulating online. Pushback from Kirk's allies, who saw even small descriptors as unfair. Then came the twist. Late that night, a video appeared on social media. It was shot by a UVU student named Tanner Maxwell. At first, it looked like just another chaotic crowd video. But when viewers zoomed in, they spotted something chilling. A small, dark figure sprinting across the roof of the Losi Center building, overlooking the courtyard. The Washington Post obtained and enhanced the clip. Their analysis confirmed what many suspected. Seconds after the attack, a person in dark clothing could be seen running across the roof. Soon, another angle surfaced. In that clip, filmed moments before the incident, a voice can be heard saying, "There's somebody on the roof right there." The figure appeared to have been in position, waiting. This was the breakthrough. Investigators now believed the attack had been carried out from the rooftop, with the assailant escaping immediately afterward. Dispatch audio later revealed that officers were searching for a suspect in tactical gear carrying a long firearm. CNN and other outlets quickly pivoted. No longer was the story just about chaos in the crowd or confusion over custody. Now, it was about a calculated rooftop ambush. CNN aired freeze frames of the video, circling the tiny silhouette fleeing across the roof. Their correspondents reported from the scene as police combed the Losi Center. Analysts explained what the video revealed. This was planned, premeditated, and professional. Earlier speculation, like whether a student in the crowd was responsible, evaporated. The rooftop footage changed the conversation completely. It also forced CNN to clarify its earlier reporting. There had never been a suspect securely in custody. The real perpetrator was still out there. The footage electrified public attention. It gave people something tangible, an image of the mysterious figure who had committed the act. Social media exploded with slow-motion analyses, theories, and calls for justice. Political reactions poured in. President Trump called Kirk a martyr for truth and blamed left-wing rhetoric for creating the climate of hate. Across the board, networks wrestled with the same challenge: how to cover a shocking act responsibly in real time. Social media had already broadcast the raw footage unfiltered. Traditional outlets were left balancing restraint with transparency. The rooftop footage not only reshaped coverage, it highlighted the new reality of news. Citizen videos are now central to investigations. CNN's credibility depended on quickly adapting to what the public was already seeing online. This case also forced a reflection on security. If a speaker at a university can be targeted from a nearby rooftop, how can any public figure be truly safe? Analysts debated whether events like Kirk's could continue without fortress-level protections. Most importantly, the tragedy underscored a crisis of political division. CNN's Jake Tapper said it plainly. It's not enough to have opponents. They're treated as enemies. That culture of hostility, many fear, is leading the nation into darker territory. Charlie Kirk's life ended abruptly at 31. His family, friends, and supporters are left mourning. His critics, too, acknowledge that no political disagreement justifies violence. The footage from Utah Valley University changed everything, for investigators, for the public, and for the media. It corrected false starts, revealed the method of attack, and gave a face, however blurry, to the search for justice. CNN's coverage, like all media coverage, was not perfect. But in the end, the facts caught up. The rooftop video told the truth, and as we reflect on this story, we're left with a sobering reminder. In a democracy, ideas must be fought with ideas, never with violence. The media's role is to tell that story clearly, responsibly, and with respect for the truth. New reports are pouring in this morning with more specificity on what may be the most important clue yet: the suspect's description. According to People magazine, law enforcement dispatch audio describes the person of interest as dressed in all-black tactical gear, including a helmet, mask, tactical vest, black long gun, jeans, and aviator-style glasses. But neither was found to match the description or to have credible connection to the shooting. So while the description is more detailed, law enforcement says they're not yet ready to name someone as the shooter. Meanwhile, reports shed light on security lapses. According to AP News, there were about 3,000 people gathered for Kirk's speech. University Police Chief Jeff Long said there were 6 campus police officers at the event, plus Kirk's own security team and some plainclothes officers mingling in the crowd. Students said there was no bag check and no metal detection. Entry seemed largely unmonitored beyond crowd control. Chief Long described the situation bluntly. "You try to get your bases covered, and unfortunately today, we didn't." In other words, while some security was present, it appears that what mattered most, control of elevated vantage points or rooftop access, was not accounted for. Buildings on campus with rooftops overlooking speaking venues are often overlooked in event security plans. When the suspect description includes tactical gear and movement across rooftops, that becomes a glaring point of failure in planning. It's the kind of oversight that many security experts warn about after previous incidents. You must consider not just the stage and the crowd, but what rests above and around them. Governor Spencer Cox has called the shooting a political assassination and demanded that all those with celebratory messages or rhetoric that incites violence reflect on their words. President Donald Trump declared flags be flown at half-staff and condemned what he called radical rhetoric on the left. On the other side, political leaders from both parties issued statements urging calm, unity, and emphasizing that disagreements must not lead to violence. The tragedy has united many voices in an unusually bipartisan way, at least in condemnation. Public reaction has also focused on how this could have been prevented. Students who were there say they saw a lack of visible security measures that might have deterred someone from approaching rooftops or entering buildings with rooftop access. One student told Utah News Dispatch that cameras and rooftop access doors seemed neglected. Areas of campus buildings rarely monitored or locked. What can be seen in the rooftop video, where clarity is limited? In many cases, surveillance images are grainy. Lighting or distance may blur small details. But even motion and shape matter. Movement immediately after the shot, fleeing across the roof, is seen. For CNN and other media outlets, these updated descriptions and security reports have forced adjustments again. Where early reports had conflicting statements about custody, now the emphasis is on matching suspect description with video. Graphic stills of the rooftop figure are now paired with audio of dispatch describing tactical gear. Aerial maps are used to show trajectories and distances, 200 yards or so between the Losi Center rooftop and the speaking area. This sharpened framing minimizes earlier ambiguity. Media commentators who had speculated a crowd area attacker are now stepping back to emphasize the rooftop theory. This kind of correction, while slower, helps realign public understanding. Whether people started watching one story and ended up with another, those visuals and details matter. The media is now reporting what's substantiated. Tactical gear, rooftop vantage, suspect escaped, no confirmed identity. Still, many critical questions remain and will likely be cornerstones of both public scrutiny and the judicial process. How did the shooter get to the rooftop? Was it maintenance access, unlocked doors, service stairs, or some other route? When did the suspect get there? Was it just before the event or earlier? Did someone see them? Were there security camera logs or badge access logs for rooftop doors? Did anyone notice odd movement before the event? Were there prior threats against Kirk or similar events that should have triggered higher security? University officials said there were no credible specific threats known beforehand. Is there more than one building vantage point? While current focus is on the Losi Center rooftop, could someone else have had another elevated sharpshooter location? What is the motive? Law enforcement has not publicly determined motive. Press conferences make clear they consider this a targeted attack. One more significant update. For viewers, what this means is the narrative has shifted. The story you thought you were seeing, crowd casualty, chaos, speculation, is being refined to tactical shooting from a distance, with probable premeditation. CNN and other outlets have had to backpedal, clarify, and highlight new evidence. That can lead to distrust, but it is also a vital part of journalistic responsibility. Justice remains uncompromised only if the investigation follows through. Identifying the suspect, establishing motive, securing physical evidence, maintaining transparency. And for public discourse, this moment should be a wake-up call. How safe are our public spaces? How much do we depend on security plans, often incomplete? And how much do our leaders and institutions prepare for what ought to have been